This is DVD Future Audio Video Reviews. The film we'll be reviewing is Clash of the Titans. It's being distributed by Warner Brothers and is directed by Louis Leterrier, based on the 1981 screenplay by Beverly Cross. The new screenplay is written by Travis Beechin, Phil Hay, and Matt Manfredi. The film stars Sam Worthington, Liam Neeson, Ray Fiennes, Jason Fleming, Gemma Arterton, and Alexa Davalos. Running time on the feature is 118 minutes, and the film is rated PG-13 for fantasy action violence, some frightening images, and brief sensuality. In Clash of the Titans, the ultimate struggle for power pits men against kings and kings against gods. But the war between the gods themselves could destroy the world. Born of a god, but raised as a man, Perseus, Sam Worthington, is helpless to save his family from Hades, Ray Fiennes, vengeful god of the underworld. With nothing left to lose, Perseus volunteers to lead a dangerous mission to defeat Hades before he can seize power from Zeus, Liam Neeson, and unleash hell on Earth. Perseus sets off on a perilous journey into forbidden worlds, leading a daring band of warriors, including Draco, an experienced soldier who encourages the defiant Perseus to make use of his god-given abilities. Battling unholy demons and fearsome beasts, they will only survive if Perseus can accept his power as a god, defy his fate, and create his own destiny. Propelling audiences into a mythological world of epic action and adventure, Clash of the Titans will be presented in 3D, making the gods even more formidable, the creatures even more fearsome, and taking audiences even deeper into the mythological realm of Perseus's quest. That synopsis sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it? Well, unfortunately, the film completely fails to deliver. Clash of the Titans is an inept production. Its biggest crime is that it's completely humorless. We have no attachment to the characters. Sam Worthington in the film continues to use his weird Brooklyn accent he's been using since Terminator Salvation and Avatar. Only here, it's weird. It's like Harvey Keitel in The Last Temptation of Christ. It's just, why does this guy have this weird Boston, Brooklyn, weird slang accent? And even worse, he's a passive observer in the film. Sam Worthington's character does nothing. He merely encounters things, occasionally gets involved in action sequences, and spouts cliched dialogue. It's complemented by completely wooden performances. Liam Neeson and Ray Fiennes are they're literally just phoning in their performances. You can tell that these guys know they're in a bad movie. They're embarrassed by the costumes they in, particularly because the costumes are cheap. And it shows right through. This movie is entirely vapid. Even worse is it's borrowing left and right. There are elements that are stolen from Star Wars. The settings and costumes, it literally feels like they just grabbed stuff out of the junk heap from the 300 set. And there's characters that look like stuff from Benicio del Toro's films. There's elements of Lord of the Rings. This is a film that is borrowing left and right, and it's doing it in such a humorless way that it just doesn't feel very exciting or entertaining. It's made even worse by the fact that there's really no suspense in the film. Since we see that Medusa is killed, we see Sam Worthington's character holding her head in the film's biggest, most popular poster. We know that he's going to win. Since that entire film hinges on that moment, we know he's going to defeat Medusa. He's going to defeat the bad guy. There's absolutely no suspense to any of it at all. And it's even more embarrassing when the Kraken finally shows up, the film's primary big bad. And it basically looks like a cross between the Rancor and the Cloverfield monster from Cloverfield. These are just decisions all around that are just absolutely terrible that led to this film's ridiculous demise as a work of art. Even as a remake, the film doesn't work. Again, I mentioned the lack of suspense, since the story is, for the most part, the same as the original film, the 1981 film. There really isn't a whole lot going on that is here to intrigue us. Of course, there's the big CG effects, but most of them are terrible. The acting isn't any better or worse than the last film. It's certainly less campy, but we don't have Ray Harryhausen's amazing visual effects to complement the film. Here we have CG effects that feel straight out of 2002, 2003. They don't feel new. They certainly don't stand up against Sam Worthington's other film this year, Avatar. This is not a film that really stands up as a comparison or as a remake or even a reimagining for that matter. And, you know, I was expecting at least a decent action picture, and this film simply doesn't deliver on that regard. Again, since there's no suspense in any of the action, the film doesn't really have a whole lot to offer. Everything is punctuated even further by a terrible score. This score is just horrendous. I have no idea what they were thinking. It's like a rock metal score almost, juxtaposed with Greek and Roman mythology. It just doesn't really work all that well. It helps aid the film's sort of two-dimensional flat feel that it exhibits throughout. And while we're on the subject of flat two-dimensionality, don't see this film in 3D. It is a complete gimmick. I've heard a lot of people out there talk about the 3D of this film. Some people say it's the effects were actually marred by the 3D being implemented in the film. This was a film that, of course, was not shot in 3D. It was actually shot to be exhibited in 2D and then has been up-converted to the 3D format. Honestly, I find it hard to believe the effects were ever good. Again, these effects are straight out of 2003, 2004, about 7 years ago or so. This is a film that I think the producers of this film saw it. They got nervous because it's a bad movie, and they decided to up-convert it to 3D in order to gain that first weekend take. It could increase the film's box office by a good $20 to $30 million if it's lucky. And honestly, there is nothing in this film, nothing, I repeat, nothing that looks 3D at all, with the sole exception of the end credits in the film. There's just nothing that ever pops off the screen. In fact, the image is so dark, it actually darkens the image so much that it's almost hard to see in spots because of the 3D. This is a film that I'm a fan of 3D. I think it's something it's around to stay, particularly films that are shot in 3D. But this particular film, it's nothing more than a cheap gimmick. And frankly, that's a shame. Warner Brothers has been touting this one for quite a while. They've made this statement, which I think is a smokescreen. They've made this sort of smokescreen statement to say, we're releasing everything in 3D from now on. It has nothing to do with the fact that this movie's terrible. Everything is going to be 3D from now on. Yeah, when I don't think that's the case. This is probably going to be one of about 2 or 3 efforts. Films need to be shot in 3D if you want to do something in 3D. I'm a big fan of 3D. I love the way it enhances the depth of field. I love the fact that these images can pop out. It makes the film almost interactive in some ways. With this film, it does not work, and I hope that maybe it was because it's rushed. I hope the next effort, I think is Harry Potter at least, hopefully it will look a little bit better than this, because this film did not look good in 3D at all. And frankly, I can't emphasize that enough. Now, if you're looking for just a mindless action film, you don't care about story, you're just in it for pure adrenaline-infused action, the film gives you a little bit of leeway there, a little bit of enjoyment. Again, it's not the best film. It's a bit humorless, and it's a bit sort of cliche and tiresome. But it will probably please some action fans out there. But honestly, if I had to compare this from the Percy Jackson film, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, which came out about a month or 2 ago, I'm going to go with Percy Jackson. No, neither film was particularly great, but Percy Jackson was a far more enjoyable picture on the whole because we actually cared about the characters, and that gave gravity to the film's action sequences. I think my wife put it best. Clash of the Titans is the cinematic equivalent of a rice cake. The film promises great value, has an appealing package, tells you it's going to taste good, it's going to be a lot of fun, you're going to enjoy it. But you don't. You chew on it, it's stale, it's flat, it can barely even be dissolved, it has no flavor, it's just there. You eat it, it doesn't give you much nourishment, and, well, it's not all that good. But, like I said, some people are going to enjoy the film. Not everybody, but some will. I wanted to enjoy the film more, and sadly it didn't do much for me. Our entertainment value, I'll be giving this film a C+. Film value, I'll be giving it a D. My final grade for Clash of the Titans is a C-. My recommendation for this film is, well, perhaps you should wait for Blu-ray. If you need to see it in 2D. Don't spend your hard-earned dollars on this gimmick. The 3D is simply not worth it. And, well, if you're not somebody who feels like you need to see the film in theaters, perhaps you should go out to your local video retailer or purchase or rent Clash of the Titans, the original film, maybe pair it with 300. You'll probably thank me.